Welcome to House of Horns and welcome back, Victor Corona, Victor producer, Javier. Before I introduce you, Victor, let me just say it's week 15 here at House of Horns. It's the Rams against the Green Bay Packers. And suddenly we got a good show here, Victor. Baker Mayfield, Baker Mania taking over House of Horns here. But Victor, producer, good to have you back. You were in IR for a couple of weeks. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad I came back on Compas on the Beat show, and now I'm doing House of Horns. I'm happy to be back. I just want to give a shout out to Fernando for filling in for me, but doing doing well after hernia surgery, 2 weeks out. Been slowly recovering, and happy to be back here with talking Rams and talking about the Rams. Baker Mayfield has taken over. Now we get a good storyline. He's giving us great content now as we end the season here for the Rams, and so it's been a shot in the arm for us here. We thought, well, we're just gonna close out the season here with the Rams, and try to do our best and try to come up with some content, but. Baker Mayfield came in, led a nice comeback win over the Raiders, and now we look forward to Week 15 as they take on the Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Victor's good to have you back. I didn't even introduce myself. That's how excited I was to have you on the show. I'm Gilbert
Yeah.
Manzano, Rams beat reporter for the OC Register LA Daily News. And yeah, I guess when you're on the sidelines, you're watching House of Horns. There's a Seahawks preview, a Seahawks postgame show, a Raiders preview, and a Raiders postgame show. Are you like watching the show and just criticizing, analyzing what me and Fernando are doing, or like Fernando doesn't know what he's doing? Or do you say things like that?
No, no, Fernando did a really good job. I honestly kind of stayed away. Just watched the games. I wanted to give you guys. I didn't want to, because I didn't want to be that person where it's like trying to tell you guys, no, you guys did this right, did this wrong. I just stayed away and I let you guys do your thing.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. I'm gonna come back to a bunch of notes from you and criticism and why did Fernand do this and why did he do that. So, all right, but that's good to know because Victor, I have a lot on my plate this week, as you know, or
Yes.
you've known for the past few weeks already, or even months. I've been kind of dreading this Green Bay trip. You know, on the bright side, I'm looking forward to it because I've never been to Lambeau Field and Green Bay, and you hear all about the history and Aaron Rodgers. It's a great place to go visit, but me, Mexican from LA, I don't know how to survive in the cold. I don't know how to drive in the snow. I don't know how to be when the wind chill or whatever the temperature goes below 5. And you keep sending me the temperature. It's like 7 degrees in Green Bay. And then I check again, it's 5 degrees, and then it's 2, and then it's 1. So uh that's what we're expecting here. But at least the game's gonna be exciting. Baker Mayfield against Aaron Rodgers. Who would have thought? Like that Paul Rudd viral clip there. Who would have thought? Look at us covering a Baker Mayfield Aaron Rodgers game this week, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and I think that's been outside of the whole Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers. I just I want updates from you to see how you're gonna survive this trip. Going from Chicago to Wisconsin and then making your way back. I think that'll be we're trying to get updates from Gilbert. So if you're on our social media accounts, if you're following us, trust me, I'm gonna be posting stuff. I thought it was really funny what Fernando came up with, that you were gonna look like one of the characters from Cool Runnings as they get into Canada. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait for these updates from you. So that's the other thing. We're on Gilberto in the Snow Watch, is what we're gonna call it. So
Yeah,
it'll
I'm
be
gonna,
fun to
if I
follow
find like
along.
a thing that has like a thermometer or something that has that shows the weather, I'm gonna stand next to it and just like in a freezing big old jacket and a beanie. But Victor, I don't want to bury the lead here. Baker Mayfield, and as you know, we like to do an engagement question here at House of Horns. So the question is, because we know Baker Mayfield's going to start the next 4 games. It's not going to be John Wolford. How about that whole dilemma, by the way? For what was that about? John Wolford or Baker Mayfield? John Wolford comes in for three snaps. He's done. Go take a seat. That was weird, but it is Baker's show for the final 4 weeks. But so I guess the engagement question is: what did you enjoy the most about that game? That Baker Mayfield game that came out of nowhere. It was boring for like 3 quarters on a Thursday night. Two bad teams just playing football, and then suddenly you have a game that you're probably gonna ask yourself, or when people say, "Hey, where were you when Baker Mayfield came back for the Rams on 2 days' notice?" So, comment below this video. Just give me your favorite moment because there's so many moments from that crazy game, like Ben Scarana getting that clutch catch over a Raiders defender. Baker Mayfield doing the headbutt on a teammate, Robert Rochelle. What was that about? Did you see the video and the coaches and like, what are you doing, man? You're crazy, Baker. Or just Mayfield throwing it to Van Jefferson for the game winner, Van Jefferson's first ever game winning catch. And Victor, the cool thing about Van Jefferson getting that, which is kind of overlooked, remember when he caught that touchdown against the Cardinals, a meaningless garbage time touchdown. He starts crying. He goes to embrace his dad. Like it was a special moment for him. But to us, it was like, it's a garbage touchdown. Who cares? And because for him, it was a reminder, hey, I'm a player in this league. I belong. I had 2 knee rehabs. I got that touchdown. And now when he got the game winner against the Raiders, like, who cares? I belong here. I'm confident. So that was pretty cool for Van Jefferson said. So just give me your best, your moment from that game. Victor, I don't know if you want to share one, but there were just so many watching that game.
Yeah, mine is going off of what you asked Baker Mayfield and him responding post game about how he tried to get Van Jefferson to Oklahoma and that he owed him one, and so he paid him back with that touchdown. So for me, that was the one that stood out. I thought it was a pretty cool moment, especially him answering your question
So I'm part
in
of the
post game.
memory. That's pretty cool too.
Yes, there we go. We got to keep it in house with House of Horns.
Okay. Well, now Victor, let's transition to some promoting. We got a plug here on the
Yes,
show. Victor, you're gonna be the model here. You're the modelo.
yes.
We got you a shirt from Homage. Homage, has a partnership with House of
Look at
Horns,
that.
Compas on the beat, and people from Homage say, "Hey Vic, what kind of shirt you want? You wanted a Ram shirt, but with a little twist. You want a SpongeBob on that shirt. It's pretty cool. Homage is a connection with SpongeBob because of the Christmas Day game. So a lot of items there. But Victor, throw it up one more time. The Ram shirt there. There you go. And then it's not just SpongeBob. You want some regular Rams gear or something with Aaron Donald on it, a Cooper Cup T-shirt. How much is a bunch of Rams gear? And there's a link right there. Or you can just go into the description of the YouTube video or the description of the Spotify or Apple Podcast, and the link will be there in the description. So you click that link, buy yourself some Rams gear. Your boys here at House of Horns gets a little cut there because we're trying to raise money to buy equipment for the show or to get to the Super Bowl. We got to go on the road and take this show out there and meet people and greet people. So if you're a fan of House of Horns, go here to this link and buy yourself some Rams gear. But what else do we got to promote, Victor?
Yeah, no, we also have I'll be the next time for the post game show, which we don't know. We're not gonna have a live show because Gilbert is in Green Bay on Monday night, so we'll probably have a live show on Tuesday night. I'll have the shirt for the Christmas Day one with no Nickelodeon. Same thing with SpongeBob. I'll have that one on. We also got that one on there. You can go ahead and order that one too through Homage. And then we got a lot of stuff to promote on here as well. We have Compas on the Beat, which is released on Wednesday. We had a good conversation, a bunch of topics we got into, not just NFL. We got into in our avocado roast segment. We got into most underrated villain, and then we did a poll for it. Uncle Frank won on that one, and then we also had what else did we have? We have for avocado rolls we had favorite movie or slash show
It was
character for
underrated, right?
Gilbert.
Underrated
Yes,
characters.
yes. So, and then we have Compas FC. They're doing the final of the World Cup, which shouldn't be playing right now, but we still support football or soccer, however you like pronouncing it or go by it. And we also, yeah. So you go ahead and check out those guys with Fernando, and then we have What's Up Bolts with Fernando and Dan and Dago. They have all your coverage in terms of the Chargers as they take on the Tennessee Titans, and are in the verge of a playoffs. Are looking to get into the playoffs. Is there anything else I missed out on, Gilbert?
No, I think I even lost track myself. But a lot of content here on the Compas on the Beat Network. Like you mentioned, we have House of Horns, What's a Boat, regular Compas on the Beat. It's our NFL show with some entertainment on it, and then also Combat Compas. We got to get on that more. Maybe we'll do kind of a end of the year awards for the best boxer, best wrestler, best MMA fighter. So we'll get on that more. But you got to cover Victor and. I am disappointed though about the post game show not being live this Monday Night Football. It's gonna be tough for me because I'm gonna be as soon as the game's over and I'm done with my stories, I gotta get in the car, deal with the icy conditions, the cold weather, and get to Milwaukee. That's where I'm staying, but I'm flying out of Chicago. So being a Monday Night Football game and on the Central Time, that's 7:30 p.m. kickoff, so it's gonna be pretty late. Then having to drive 3 hours to get to Chicago, it's just a lot on my plate, so I'd rather just kind of play it safe. But I am disappointed. But Victor, I'm gonna kind of put out a challenge here. People are watching the House of Horns and they're like, "Man, I want to have a post game show. It's Baker Mania. We got to have something." I'm gonna throw out a challenge, Victor. If 10 people
Oh my God.
comment here and just comment House of Horns, just that's all you got to do. Comment on this video. We get 10 people to comment House of Horns, and that means you're gonna get on the program by yourself, Victor, or you can invite Fernando, whoever, and host it yourself. I'm just putting you on the spot.
Okay.
But if we get 10 comments, you got to do it. Produce it yourself. Because
Yes.
I don't want to miss out on the post game show. I'm telling you, I want to do it Tuesday because I want to be part of it. But if people get excited and they're just saying, "Hey, House of Horns" in the comments, you got to do it, Victor. Is that a good challenge for you? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I like it because I was trying to push for us to
I
have a
know.
post game show and try to get Fernando on, so that way you didn't have to do any of the work because we know you have to travel back. But I like this, man. Like if
Okay.
we can get 10 people to comment on there, we'll have a live show. Especially if Baker somehow puts out another win in Green Bay, why not? I love this challenge, Gilbert.
There you go. I put you on the spot. I just thought about it, but I know you want to do it, but I want to do
Yeah.
it too. But if we get people to me in the middle with some comments and engagement, I'll step back. That's fine too. Or maybe people are like, hey, like hashtag we need Gilbert on the show. We need Gilberto on Tuesday. I don't know. We'll see.
All
Uh,
right.
let the comments speak for themselves. But Victor, I am ready to move on because what else we have?
We have news and notes from practice today. What do you got for us, Gilbert?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a shocker, but not too much because I'm a toot my own horn here. Because if you listen to House of Horns,
Yes.
I've mentioned this Rams team is not happy with their pass rushing, their outside linebackers, edge rushers, whatever you want to call them. So Terrell Lewis was waived on Thursday, which is you could like I mentioned, maybe surprising, but not so much. The way it's surprising for me, Victor, is that they already did it to Justin Hollins, and they're very thin with at outside linebacker, and it's kind of like, well, Terrell Lewis is on the books for another year. Let him finish out this year just to see what he has. Like he already knew, like he can't stay healthy. He's not consistent. He doesn't show enough flashes. Like the skill set, like this guy. If you stand next to him, Victor, this guy's a monster. He has the big size, long arms, everything you look for in the edge rusher. Terrell Lewis has it. He did it in Alabama. He was a highly decorated recruit, so it just didn't work out for him. But I'm just kind of surprised because the numbers are very thin. But then it kind of lets you know they really like Michael Hoecht. But the thing with Michael Hoecht, you saw the growing pains. You told me,
Yes.
Victor, he couldn't protect the outside runs there. But I think he kind of figured it out, and he did something like that was the first time he got tested, and then they kept going to Michael Hoyt, and he got some big plays at the end. So I think maybe they saw that him going through a growing pain, learned quickly, and like, okay, we could work with that. With Terrell Lewis, you never saw the big flashes like that game you had. Victor, you were you were on the injured reserve, but the game that Michael Hoyt had against the Seahawks, I think it was,
Yeah.
uh, he just flashed. Like, have you seen that with Terrell Lewis? I don't think the Rams saw enough of that, so that's why they waived them. I don't know what you want to say about Terrell Lewis, but him being waived, and just to think about how the year started when it was Justin Hollins against Terrell Lewis to replace Von Miller, and then neither player is here anymore. It's just a little
Yeah.
wild to me.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, and I'll keep it quick on this, is that he is now the fourth member of the 2020 draft class that is gone now. That means there's five remaining out of the nine. You have guys like Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, that are still around, but it's and I'm gonna say this to Rams fans. the 2020 draft was kind of an outlier for every team because of what happened with COVID. So I know people are going to criticize this draft class, because the Rams have done well to find players later on in the rounds, later in rounds in their draft classes. But I think every team that I've seen, they've had a hard time finding talent. Unless you're like someone like the Ravens, who are always hit on their draft picks. The 2020 draft class as itself for every team was kind of a crapshoot just because of the whole COVID thing, the scouting combine getting shut down as whole COVID hit. And so that's been my biggest takeaway in terms of this draft class is just take it easy with that 2020 draft class, and I know Cam Akers and Van Jefferson. We saw what's been going on, and we just talked about earlier about Van Jefferson.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing that list is gonna keep getting bigger. I just don't know with the Cam Akers situation. I know he had a good game against Seattle, not too much against the Raiders, but I feel like Cam Akers is probably on the way out too. I think they just need the numbers, but which is weird because they need the numbers at outside linebacker too. But maybe Terrell Lewis just has like a big issue with his back problem, and like, okay, you're not gonna come back. Might as well just call it a day here because they've been really frustrated. I feel like with his injuries and his history, and it just like, is it worth it at some point? Because again, he has a skill set, he has a size, but he doesn't do enough on the field. I know Bobby Wagner liked him. He really took a liking to him. He took him under his wing. Maybe we don't give him enough credit because he knows how to set the edge when it comes to the running game. He did that pretty well. He just couldn't get to the quarterback. And at least with Michael Hoecht, you saw that kind of disruption quickly and early. But yeah, just not enough flashes. And Victor, I'll move on there with the Terrell Lewis thing. Uh, One note here that I just really found fascinating from Sean McVay's presser today, being Thursday. Like, we kept asking a bunch about Baker Mayfield. We talked to McVay, after the game Thursday. We talked to him the next day, Friday. We got to talk to him again Tuesday, and then today. So I'm like, what else can he talk about with the whole Baker first time thing? And he was really kind of revealing, why they were able to kind of gel so quickly. One being that Sean McVay really liked Baker Mayfield's game. They took a flight together on
Yeah,
Southwest, and he kept telling that story more and more, and that was interesting. But the real reason why Baker Mayfield knew the system pretty well was a connection with Bill Callahan. You know the name Bill Callahan
yes.
from the Raider days.
Hmm.
Bill Callahan and Sean McVay worked together in Washington. Bill Callahan is the offensive line coach for Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns. So in terms of knowing the protections, knowing some of the concept, Baker Mayfield already knew it. Maybe they're just different lingo there. So I thought that was pretty interesting little wrinkle there, that connection with Bill Callahan kind of fast forward what happened with Baker. And then even uh, Sean McVay studying film on Odell Beckham last year when Odell joined the Rams, and he had to figure out kind of plays for him. Who was throwing the ball to Odell Beckham in the film? Baker Mayfield. So all that
Yeah.
kind of tied together to create this game plan on such short notice with 2 days ago. So uh, just learning more about how they got this game plan in 2 days and 48 hours, I just find that stuff kind of fascinating for me.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I kind of started finding out about this relationship was, like you mentioned, the whole flight. They were on a flight going to the combine in Indy, and then they got to talking, and they spent the whole time, and so we kind of knew Sean McVay. I mean, not until now that they he really liked Baker Mayfield, and it made sense. It made sense to bring him in. I mean, you don't lose anything. And I don't know if you guys talked about this, but there should be some concern about this Matt Stafford injury going forward. I know they're kind of downplaying it. We don't know what's going to happen. He could retire after the season, but it's something to keep an eye on. I'll say that. I'm not predicting that that's it for Matt Stafford. But if this works out, this is a good, time for Baker Mayfield to show what he can do in this Sean McVay offense, and then maybe turn it into getting re-signed and being a backup, or he goes somewhere else. But at least he has 4 more games to show what he can do.
This is why I'm glad you're back on the show, Victor, because you know how to set me up in transition. There's gonna be a lot of Baker Mayfield on this program. I'm sure nobody's complaining about that. But for the storylines for the Rams and Packers, obviously I get to handle the Rams, or you got the Packers, Victor.
Yes.
But I want to start up with more of your thoughts about Baker Mayfield because you haven't been on the show to kind of hear him, and that's part of
Hmm.
it too. Because like all the Rams talk about and Baker Mayfield himself, and for Baker, it's cool because he's trying to earn a job. He's competing or he's auditioning for 31 teams and the Rams too, so 32 teams because the Rams haven't decided anything either. You know, because they have Stafford, so he's auditioning for everybody. But with the Rams, kind of like that's probably in the back of your mind, right? Like the Stafford thing, McVay saying all the right things, or not all the right things, but saying like good things, like hey, he's gonna have a healthy offseason, Stafford. It doesn't require surgery. He's gonna be fine. He's our boy. We're just gonna check out a guy who we needed in the moment because John Wolford's dealing with a neck injury, Stafford's out. We needed Baker, and he's a talented player, and we want our players to develop with Baker, and all that's been true and fine. But in the back of your mind, you're probably thinking like, what if? What if maybe Stafford's dealing with something? And maybe we could see something in house for 4 weeks where we have a good plan B option. So uh, I think that's part of it too, Victor. But I just want to hear your thoughts. You know, first, what you really thought about this move, and then two, what did you think about the performance? Like were you really surprised how well he did, or maybe I'm over kind of exaggerating because there was two bad quarters right in between, good fast start, and then second and third quarter there wasn't much. But I just want to hear your thoughts for the first time on Baker Mayfield here on House of Horns.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about, and I know we brought it up on regular compas, and I remember you talking about how you're like, no, stay away from these kind of quarterbacks. You don't want to deal with this. And I always, and I one of the things it always sticks in my mind is first round picks are always going to get, more looks than any other. Like, you don't want to give up on those first round picks. We've seen it over and over. People, take a chance on them. And I think the whole relationship with Meve here helped things. I had no idea that I pretty much had him going to the 49ers, which you also said just stay away 49ers, go with Brock Purdy. But in terms of, Baker Mayfield, he's just too big of a name. He's he's a lightning rod kind of player. You're either going to get something really good or something really bad. It's either or. He's not one of those guys that just keeps it steady. It's either going to be really good, you're going to get the highs, and you're going to get the lows. And I thought, as long as you have a good team around him, he's gonna do well, as he did 2 years ago with the Cleveland Browns. I didn't, he played hurt last year. He gutted it out. I thought it was kind of a shame that how he was treated by some of the, media, going through, playing his heart out, playing hurt. And then he comes into the season, and of course the Browns trade for, Watson, and I understood that, and then he got left out, and then he goes to a terrible organization in the Panthers, because they haven't been able to figure out their quarterback situation now for since they let Cam Newton leave. And so this for as it deals with the Rams right now, I think for them is he comes at a right time, as you talked about, because he has that relationship with McVay, and we can see what McVay can do now. Like, now he has a good situation, a healthy Baker Mayfield, and he can, it's like getting a new toy and seeing what you can do. Now you've had him for 10 days after that Raiders game, and which I even texted. I knew this was going to happen with Baker Mayfield, especially on Tuesday's Riz, because I've seen it with the Raiders. Like, they've lost to Jeff Saturday. Him getting hired last minute. It's and then something always happens with the Raiders when someone comes in last minute, and it happened again with Baker Mayfield. And those last two drives, I think one of the things they did that was really smart is they played up tempo, and that way it helped Baker Mayfield late in the game, because once you go up tempo, you really, don't let the defense set up, and you're able to run, whatever. You don't need to think hard. You just go off, whatever play off either first look or second look, and if it's not there, you either you give up on the play there, and you try to get to the next one. So as far as Baker Mayfield, I think this is a good thing for him, and he is going to get to show what he has in the last 4 games.
Yeah, one quote that stood out to me, Victor, from Ben Skowronek was like, "Man, I'll give you actually two quotes actually. Ben Skowronek was like, man, I don't care what happens from here on out with Baker Mayfield. That guy has my respect for what he did on Thursday night and what he did from Tuesday to Thursday, coming in, preparing, putting new life into this team that just really needed a win after just a bad 6 game stretch and kind of down. And Ben Skowronek said, I don't care what happens, man. That guy has my respect. And then we spoke to Taylor Rapp, but he had that interception against the Raiders. I want to say Tuesday on Zoom, and he just kept saying, "I love that guy. I love Baker. I love Baker." And this guy's playing safety. Like, how much time did he really spend with Baker Mayfield? And already he just like just enamored with the guy and saying how much he respects him. So, uh, but that's the thing that we saw with Baker Mayfield's career was like people really love the guy and then they get tired of him, you know. And I want to get to a point where like maybe I get a little more time with Baker Mayfield. Like today, a lot of cameras were there with Baker Mayfield when he spoke, and I just want to like maybe get some time. Like, did you feel like you did a lot of learning in Cleveland, where you were trying to get that locker room #1 pick, just have a lot of swag and confidence, and people just gravitate towards you? But then, like when the bad times come and you're still doing the same thing, you don't adjust. People get annoyed with that. So maybe he learned something like when it's bad, how to. Because in Carolina, it got really bad. Did you hear a peep from Baker Mayfield? I didn't hear anything bad about Baker Mayfield in Carolina. So I wonder how much he grew from that. And all he wants to do is just kind of learn. And a guy like Sean McVay who did so well with Jared Goff before it got bad. A guy like Matthew Stafford who was really good, but just couldn't put it together until he got with Sean McVay. Like this is another kind of challenge for Sean McVay. So I feel like these two guys kind of need each other, at least in the moment. I don't know what it means for the future, but Victor, what you're saying about like you got to see what you have in the potential, and maybe if it goes bad for Baker for the next few weeks, okay, this is kind of the guy we knew. But then, like you mentioned in Cleveland, he had the injuries. It's never a perfect situation. And that's why I feel like the thing what happened in Thursday night was perfect for Baker because there's no Cooper Kupp out there. There's no Aaron Donald, no Allen Robinson. It was a pretty much a B team going against the Raiders, and he did it. And with the command of the huddle, learning quickly, and then making plays, man. From the get go, the throw to Van Jefferson was just nice, and you could tell this guy could throw. But then in Cleveland's like he had a lot of accuracy issues. So all he could really do is lean on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. All he could do is run a bootleg. But with that game on Thursday night, he was kind of doing a lot of different things. So again, I don't know, it's going to be a high highs of Baker Mayfield for a month or kind of that roller coaster. But for the most part, it's been a good little experiment.
And I think it's going to be a roller coaster, but I mean, we're happy he's on this team because we'll have something to talk about. But I just thought going back to what you were talking about in terms of the players and how they reacted. If you look at that post game, like when that video in the locker room, I mean that tells you how much those. I mean, he's only been there 2 days, and the embrace he got in that locker room, you would have thought that the guy had been there the whole year and people were just trying to root for him to be, like they'd been rooting for him because things have been so bad. It's like he like a monkey came off his shoulders or something, and it was like, okay, look, we can celebrate because you've had all this stuff go on. And the other thing in terms of Cleveland, I'll say this, he had to run a system. Like that was a system. They were a pound and run
Mm-hmm.
team, and he didn't have a lot, you know. So I mean, can you think of a #1 receiver he had there in Cleveland? I can. I
Well,
mean,
besides OBJ, I don't know if that counted when he
yeah.
was there.
Yeah, and he was hurt too.
Oh, he
Remember,
was,
like
yeah.
if you look at the story about how, especially that came out about the Rams and how they were like, we're just waiting to see when his knee is going to give out because it looks really bad. So that's the other thing. I mean, so we'll see. We'll see what we
Yeah.
get from him. But it's exciting, and hopefully we'll see what happens here the final 4 games, Gilbert.
Yeah, and last thing before I go to my second storyline, we're spending a lot of time here on this Baker Mayfield field show. Uh, you know, I know it's not the same situation because the Rams do a lot of winning in previous years and they go to the Super Bowl but he just have his reputation of bringing guys from other teams and plugging them in very quickly. And I think that deserves a lot of credit for this coaching staff with the Rams. Same thing with OBJ. It wasn't the right fit in Cleveland. People wrote this guy off, and he comes back with the Rams, does well. Von Miller wrote him off,
Same.
comes back, same thing. I think Jalen Ramsey was also a mid-season acquisition, but that was also earlier in the year. But the last couple of years, or even last year, just bringing in guys and just kind of working with this quarterback with this coaching staff. they do well, but it's just funny how like the first 12 weeks, man, like nothing worked. It was just really bad. It was like the first
Yeah.
time this coaching staff, at least with McVay leading it, just couldn't figure it out. And then out of nowhere, quickly in 2 days, they figure it out for one game. And it's just kind of like funny how football works sometimes. But
Yeah.
moving on real quickly, one thing that really emerged, and credit to Liam Cohen. I don't know if Liam Cohen is going to be the OC for the Rams anymore because supposedly he's going to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Supposedly he hasn't decided yet. We're going to talk to Liam on Friday to figure that out. But Liam said, "Hey, the reason you go out and get a Baker Mayfield when you're really needing a quarterback and you're in a losing season, and you want guys to develop, you get a quarterback who's a good quarterback. He's going to give the ball to your playmakers because you want to see them do well. If your quarterback's not doing well, your the rest of your team does not develop, and that's when they get Baker Mayfield." And surprise, surprise, Victor, Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, these guys finally made plays. And I feel like we've been waiting all year for these guys to do something because it was a lot of Cooper Cup. And even Allen Robinson wasn't doing much. But I was just so annoyed because in August we said this team is stacked with wide receivers. They have 7 players on the roster. And then who's doing anything? And then suddenly when Baker shows up, like I was surprised Ben Skoranek was doing that many plays because he's a nice guy who was helping you out on fullback as a fullback on special teams. But then they do that catch over a guy for 32 yards in crunch time. Like, where did that come from? So I think that's a nice little storyline here. Is these young wide receivers are not becoming playmakers, especially a guy like Tutu Atwell. I know Tutu Atwell didn't have the craziest game last week, but he's being consistent. He's opening up the route tree. He's getting open. He's beating people with a small frame. Like he could play in the league. Van Jefferson's becoming a solid number 3. Ben Scarana is becoming reliable. So even Brandon Powell with the jet sweeps, man. So the emergence of the other guys, I think that's a good storyline, and we'll see how they do with Baker for the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I like that, what you mentioned about Tutu Atwell because, one of the things that offenses tend to do is, especially when you have a small frame receiver like that, is they're just going to send them on go routes. And one of the things I've been, it's been nice to see from him is those crossing routes. Something I've been asking for. It's been nice because then it opens your whole playbook up, and especially with Tutu Atwell, it's been nice to see Van Jefferson. He's been the one running those go routes, and we saw what happened on that catch in the end zone for the game winning catch there. So yeah, man, it's been impressive to see these receivers. But let's get to the story. I'll keep it quick with the Packers, who sit at 5-8. Unfamiliar territory for them. It's been kind of strange seeing this team because they traded Devontae Adams to the Raiders, and they got a bunch of picks for him. And and we're going to talk about Christian Watson later on in our player matchups. But they sit at 5-8. They're third in the division. This is a team that finished as the number one seed the last 2 years in the NFC, and they've struggled offensively. They've kind of turned it on the last few weeks, but it's been a struggle for Aaron Rodgers. I'm surprised, we're 30 minutes into the show, and we're just now talking about Aaron Rodgers. It's been up and down with Aaron Rodgers. This might be the last season we see him in a Packer uniform, which is weird because we've gone through the whole drama during the offseason for the last couple of years with him. And it's just been kind of a weird situation with the Packers, who've been one of the best run organizations now. They've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. They develop from within. We talked about how they're one of those teams that just gets it right in terms of drafting because they don't out and sign big ticket free agents because nobody wants to go play in the cold in Green Bay, and nobody blames players for that. So that's been kind of weird. I just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think this is the last year we see Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay uniform?
Yeah, you would think, it's a losing season. And even when they won a lot of games, like you mentioned, the number one seed, where did they get them? Nowhere. It didn't even get them to the Super Bowl. So if you're an Aaron Rodgers, maybe it's time for a change, unless he's looking at Devontae Adams and it didn't really work out. I think my Wi-Fi went down. Victor, let me know if I'm frozen
No, no,
here.
you're good. You're
'Cause
good.
I'll be frozen for reals on Sunday and Monday. Not today, hopefully. But yeah, I feel like maybe it's time for a change. I know he's owed a lot of money, so that contract, we'll see how they work around it. But also, you got Jordan Love. It's gonna be year 4, and on a rookie contract, you're not gonna you're not gonna see what he has throughout the whole rookie contract. Like, like that what is it? That one game where he came in for for an injured Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. He showed some
against the
flashes there.
Eagles.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I know he's got a couple starts, the last couple of years, and it was kind of so-so. But at some point, you gotta let the guy kind of do his thing and see what happens. So I think it might be kind of the final time for Aaron Rodgers for this year, and it's just kind of a funny game where like, you know, when the Rams played the Chiefs, it kind of felt like that was supposed to be a crazy matchup. But only one team was doing well, and the Chiefs. This one, both teams are not doing well, and it was supposed to be a highly, well, it's going to be a lot of tension because of Baker Mayfield, which is funny to think too. But remember, like a couple of weeks, we were like, they got to play in prime time against the Raiders, the Packers, the Chargers, the Broncos,
The
all these
Broncos.
bad games, and suddenly we all care now because Baker Mayfield is on the team. And somebody told me today that that post game show or reaction you were talking about, that video, like it got 1 million views within an hour, so people were really wanting to watch that. I got a lot of emails about my story on Baker Mayfield, so people really care. I'll say that another day, but people were pretty much really excited for the Baker Mania. But that's not the topic here. It's Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see what happens here. But I think in terms of like the nice little matchup here is like Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers against Sean McVay and Baker, because Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay are best friends, not best friends, but they're really good friends. Sean McVay mentioned them like somebody that he really respects, and it's not the rivalry like Kyle Shanahan, but there's something there where like you want to beat your friends, you know. So that's gonna be a good little storyline there.
Yeah, and then I'll switch just to keep it pretty short here in terms of the takeaways. I'll move over to the defense. The defense was supposed to be really good. Someone that I trust in terms of their expertise is Mina Kimes, and she had them as one of the coming into the season as a top five defense. And they haven't played that. Last year they had they had 26 turnovers forced, which ranked third. This year they're 15 and they had 15 takeaways. And I thought one of the things that just for everybody's information here, the Packers defense saw Mayfield last year when he was on Christmas Day with the Browns, and they forced him into four interceptions. So that'll
Wow.
be something to keep an eye on because they tend to play well, especially someone to keep an eye on will be Rasul Douglas, who intercepted him twice in that game. So that, just keep an eye on that. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Their defense hasn't been as good. I haven't heard much from Jair Alexander, who's supposed to be, one of the best corners in the league. I saw him get beat a couple of times this year, especially against AJ Brown and the Eagles. That was a really good game between the Packers and Eagles. Turned out to be when people were like, "Well, what do we really want to watch this game in prime time?" It turned out to be a really good game. So, and then just keep this in mind: out of those 15 turnovers they forced, half of them have come in the last four games. So they've kind of turned things up in terms of turning teams over the last couple of games.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually looking at the Packers injury report just to make sure anybody notable's out, but Dave Bakhtiari, the tackle, is hasn't been practicing. I don't think he's even played for a while, right, Victor? Unless maybe I'm
Yeah,
missing
he's
here.
been hurt for the last few years. He's been kind of a disappointment for them. I know they've, like their offensive line. They also lost their center to the Chargers. Was it
Yeah,
this year or
Corey
last
Linsley.
year?
Lindsay last year, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Mm.
like I said, they built through the draft. As we'll talk about. Actually, that's a good segue there for our player matchups. Do you want to start or do you want me to start here?
No, I could start this. What did I have here? Okay. Yeah, you actually
Talking
said me up
about
there with
yeah.
Jair Alexander. I think I just want to double check that he's not hurt or anything, because sometimes I'm like, oh, what if I missed it here? But yeah, Jair Alexander hasn't had the best season, and I guess not a lot of people have in Green Bay there. It's just really weird, like you mentioned. A lot of experts had him being one of the top teams, and it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. That is, we speak to Raheem Morris on Friday, which is tomorrow, and I just want to get his thoughts. Like, what does he think about this Packers offense without Devontae Adams? What are they doing differently? And he's one of those guys that kind of opens up and is not shy to talk about scheme. So, um, yeah, it's really weird what's going on with the Packers of being third and then and it's in the AFC North, but it's still going to be a tough matchup in Green Bay, and Jair Alexander, I think, is still a good cornerback. So It's gonna be a very good test for Van Jefferson. So that's my matchup. Van Jefferson, he's the number one guy right now, and I know he didn't have a lot of like a monster stat line against the Raiders. We got the game winning touchdown there, so uh, that's big for him. And when you get a game winning touchdown, people notice you more. You're more noticed. So let's see what Jair does with Van Jefferson. And then that means Tutu Atwell and Ben Scarana got to make more plays. Brandon Powell and get some more jet sweeps going too with those guys because I'll get into it later, but you got to have some kind of balance there because you don't want Baker Mayfield throwing 4 interceptions again, and it's going to be a lot of pressure on Baker to kind of live up to that performance there. So if Van Jefferson gets it going against Jair Alexander, you're already doing a lot of good things there because that is definitely one of the best players on defense. It might be their best player on defense, I think.
And he's one of their best, especially, this was supposed to be a really good secondary, one of the best in the NFL. So it's been, like I said, they've kind of been turning people, teams over lately. So that'll be a good matchup to look out for. Mine is Christian Watson against Jalen Ramsey. I mean, Watson was their second round pick, and he's turned it on the last month since November 1st. I know you're a big Randy Moss fan, so I know you'll like this stat. He became the second rookie receiver in NFL history to score 8 TDs from scrimmage in over a 4 game span.
Nice.
And the first one was Randy Moss, who did it in 1998. So this kid has turned it on. And his stats since November, he's got 17 catches for 337 yards. As we talked about, the 8 touchdowns, and he's also he's also carried the ball twice for 49 yards and a touchdown. So, and then we saw what happened with Ramsey. We've been critical of him in terms of what he does against big time receivers. Sometimes he'll play one on one against him. Sometimes he'll just be the star back there and kind of just making plays. And he held his own against Devontae Adams. Adams had 2 great catches, one a one-hander, the other one where he had his hand, Ramsey had his hand on his face, which I thought was a cool picture. But he held his own. He limited him to 2 catches on 4 targets. And Devontae Adams didn't do much. So that'll be something to look forward to. I want to see if he does that again, especially against a rookie receiver who's been hot the last 4 games, Gilbert.
Yeah, let me ask a question, but real quick, I want to say this might be the first time all year, or that was the first time all year where I actually saw Jalen Ramsey shadow somebody. Like
Yes.
somehow, sometimes the matchup just becomes a matchup. It's on his side, he's gonna do his thing, but he's always been kind of the star guy, moving around. And but this time, wherever Devontae was going, he was going. There's a motion, and he was trying to follow, and it was kind of rough at first. But then he didn't get a catch, Devontae Adams, in the second half, and he only got targeted 3 times. So I ask you, Victor, because you were watching this closely, was it a Jalen Ramsey shutdown thing, or just the way the game went, where Derek Carr was not really targeting Devontae Adams?
So I saw this a lot in terms of how it was mostly, if I'm being honest, it was a play calling mistake by Josh McDaniels. He for some reason decided that he wanted to run the ball. He wanted to pound the ball. He wanted to take some of. I don't understand why he did that. But in terms of what happened, it was that they wanted to run the ball, and they decided that that was going to be their game plan on Thursday night against the Rams. It backfired. It allowed the Rams to get back into it, and we saw the Baker magic. So, but in terms of what I saw, I mean, he was Devontae Adams. He's a number one receiver for a reason, and he proved it with some of those catches. I mean, Ramsey was draped all over him. You have to give Ramsey credit for that because he did his job, and it was really good defense, but better catches by Devontae Adams. And in terms of that, you have to give him the credit. Now I can say, well, Josh McDaniels decided that he was going to run the ball on the Rams, and that was his prerogative. But in terms of what happened, Ramsey did his job, man. He locked, he limited him to 4 targets, and as you saw, he was on him, and which was honestly one of the best things. And maybe it goes back to their whole rivalry when I think it was a couple years ago, or when they faced each other in Green Bay and they were talking smack to each other. And there's that little video that went around where Adams was like, "Hey, give me the ball. I want the ball." And somebody was like, "Hey, keep an eye on Adams. We don't want him to get tossed out of this game because of Ramsey's smack talk." So I thought that was really interesting, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe he told Raheem Morris, "Hey, like I want in on this," and he took it personally.
Yeah, and I caught up with Ramsey after the game, and I asked him, I'm like, "Did you request to shadow Devontae?" And he's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm asking you the question, but sure, yeah." And but I think he asks every single week to shadow somebody, and he always gets a no because he's a competitor, but it's not within the scheme, and he kind of is like, "Okay, fine, whatever." So he finally got his wish, I think, because it's 6 game losing streak. What the heck happened? And we kept pushing on the show like, at some point, Raheem, just let him go be the guy that who's making the money, $20 million a year. So, yeah, that was a cool matchup, and we'll see how that works out with Christian Watson, who's I think he had some issues with the hands at first with the catching the ball, but I think he's really caught up the last couple of weeks. So, as you mentioned there, Victor.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see this kid. I've seen a couple of games of his here and there. He's been great in open space, and the kid just once he gets the ball and he has some space, he's one of those guys that has a nose for the end zone, and he's been able to do that the last 4 games, as the stats prove. But let's get to our keys to the game now, Gilbert. What do you got for us?
Yeah, here I'm a little surprised that Baker Mayfield had so much success with such a kind of like meh or stagnant running game last week. Like the running game was finally figuring it out. Like they were finally making some moves. Cam Akers had a good game against the Seahawks, and I think I want to say they got 171 yards rushing. Yeah, against the Seahawks. So that they had their best rushing game performance, and I want to say they were held to like maybe like I should have remembered this, but it was under 100 for sure. And it just kind of felt like, okay, what happened to his running game? And for Baker to do that well, and then the offensive line finally got some got some guys back. They had the same offensive line combination for the two games in a row. That streak of 12 games, 12 combos ended last week, so we don't have to make those jokes anymore. But we'll see what the running game does because they're going to be in the frozen tundra, like we keep saying, in the cold, low scoring game. You got to have a running game. Like the running game is uh, you succeed with the running game when it's cold. So for Baker Mayfield to get some help, they're going to need that. So the other thing that's kind of weird here, like I mentioned, all the young wide receivers are doing well. What's going on with Kyron Williams, the rookie running back? He's not getting any carries. Uh, Against the Raiders, Cam Akers was getting pretty much the whole heavy workload, and then the rest of the carries are for the wide receivers on jet sweeps. So I don't know what's going on with Kyron Williams there. They don't want to trust him to give him the ball, and I can't really evaluate the guy or talk about his game because he's not getting enough carries. You can't judge a running back with 4 carries or 5 carries per game. He's got to have at least 10. So uh, the keys to the game is getting that running game going, and just the kind of the weird wrinkle here. Cam Akers is the lead dog, but I don't even think he's going to be on the roster next year. So we'll see what's going on there. But you got to have some kind of rushing attack, and it can't be like a measly 80 yards, averaging 3 yards per carry.
Yeah, so one of the things that you brought up was how they did against the Seahawks. The Seahawks have been struggling on that run defense. They've been really bad. And then one of the things about the Raiders is they're really good at run stopping. Running stopping the run for some reason. I can't explain why that is, but they've been really good. And then now you face a team in the Packers who hasn't been that good at stopping the run. So that'll be something. That's why I like your key to this game, because you should be able to take advantage of this run defense. You use Cam Akers, even with a bad offensive line, or at least one that's hurt. You can take advantage of this Packers run defense, especially knowing that the Packers have a good secondary. So that's where you should attack this defense. And like you talked about, I honestly, one of the things I've seen from Ram fans is, where is Kyron Williams? And I'm with you. I don't know. And I guess they really like Cam Akers right now because they chose him over Daryl Henderson, who I saw got released by the
Yeah.
Jaguars. So that's another thing. So hopefully we see a little bit more balance with Kyron Williams, or him getting a little bit more carries. But I'll move over. Mine is going to be the defense, man. I've been really impressed. I know people have been critical of Raheem Morris. I just want to keep seeing the same cliche thing that we hear from people, from our defensive corners. We want to be a, bend but don't break defense. They've been doing that. We saw it against the Chiefs, we saw it against the Seahawks, and we saw it against the Raiders. They allowed opening drive to the Raiders in a touchdown, and then it was just field goals the rest of the time. So I want to keep seeing that. You've been asking all season for turnovers. They've been able to turn teams over the last couple of weeks now. We saw it with Mahomes, and then we saw it with Derek Carr. So I just want to keep seeing what I'm from what I've seen from this Rams defense. And I know people have been frustrated with the scheme, but it's working right now. And even with Aaron Donald not being there, they've been able to do the job. We've seen, as you talked about Hoyt, we've seen great games. This is the first time watching great games. He's been one of my favorite players to watch. That guy he just is a machine inside. I can't wait to see what he can do when with alongside Aaron Donald. But he's been one of my surprise players. Is great games. I know he doesn't have a lot of sacks, but man, that guy has a mortar on him. I know that's another thing that people hate hearing, especially with white linemen, is the whole mortar thing. But he's been great to watch, and I can't wait to see the rest of that defense. And I'll say this one more thing, and then I know we got to move on. Is Bobby Wagner, man, that guy has been the heart and soul of this defense. I just love his experience. I'm glad that Rams fans get to see. This has been the first season where I've been able to watch him for a whole season, because he was up with Seattle, and you hear the stories. But now I'm sure you have plenty of stories. You've written about him, but it's just been great to see what a pro, even on a losing team, is. And Bobby Wagner is, he's been a pro's pro.
Yeah, that was gonna be my thing. It's like, yeah, obviously we always talk about who's a good football player. We evaluate on the field, but just the way this guy handles himself with the media and how much he gives his time to us, I really respect that. And then how much time he's given to other people and in the locker room. Like I mentioned, he took Terrell Lewis under his wing, and I'm sure he talked to Terrell Lewis like, "Hey, it's not the end of your journey here," and just to be a captain, handle your media requirements, and then also play that well at age 33 or 32. Have been in the league for 11 years, and to have that 2 games span from the Seattle game where he just was playing out of his mind to doing it again 3 days later in the 11th season in the NFL and just making an impact against the Raiders, like
You froze.
I think I froze. Maybe you froze. It
Yeah,
might have
no,
been
no,
me.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. You're good. I'm
Greg,
back.
when I was trying to figure out, man, this run defense or this Rams defense overall has been playing well without Ashawn Robinson, without Aaron Donald. And how are they doing it? It can't be just Jalen Ramsey and Bobby Wagner. It's guys like Greg Gaines, and I'm glad you gave him a shout out because uh, when you move Michael Hoyt from the inside to the outside, I'm like, who are the bodies inside? And Greg Gaines is holding it down. So I'm glad you mentioned him because he's been fun to watch too. Even young guys like Kier Thomas and Daniel Hardy getting their opportunities because Terrell Lewis and Justin Hollins have been waived and on other teams now.
Yeah, man. And it's been great seeing these players, show out. And this is what happens when late in the season, when you have a team that's kind of, just trying to evaluate players. And this is what you get. You get players who show out, who are given opportunities, whether it's on offense, like we talked about with Van Jefferson, Tutu Adwell, and even I just wanted to make sure that we gave love to the defense. But moving on. We don't have a mailbag this week because we totally spaced out and forgot to ask for a question this week. So we're gonna get right to our we're gonna give our game predictions, but I wanted to make sure people knew in their betting spotlight the Rams are 7 point underdogs, and I think this is the lowest. Maybe you can correct me. This might be the lowest over under, which makes sense because it's going to be a cold night in Green Bay, Wisconsin, 39 and a half. So we'll give us your going off of that, Gilbert. Give us your game prediction for this Monday night matchup, Monday
Yeah,
night football
now
matchup.
that I think about it, I finally got one wrong. I think when it was a 6 game losing streak, I was in a 6 game winning streak, predicting these matchups here. So I think I'm 9-4 in the season, but I got the spread right, Victor, last week. I said the Rams will cover. So I think I want to say I'm six. How many games are there? I might be 6-1. There's 13 games, right? Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, I think I'm six six
Yes.
and one against the spread. I needed one. I was down 5-6. I was 5-6-1. So um, yeah, I get competitive here because I know I'm not doing well on NFL game picks on Compas on the beat. So I need something. So I need to get these two right here. So I will actually not. I feel like this is the first time I'm thinking about it, but I think the Packers being at home, cold weather, Monday Night Football. I think the Rams are really high from the Baker Mayfield thing. Uh, Aaron Rodgers also they're coming off a bye week. That's gonna be beneficial for them. Aaron Rodgers kind of had his typical game against the Chicago Bears. I feel like they haven't played in a long time. So give me the Packers, and the spread's tricky, huh? So I'm gonna give you a score
Yeah.
here. You know what? Give me. I say I think the Rams just fight. They play hard. So give me 20. It's gonna be such a weird score. 26-20.
Oh,
Packers
so you're
win.
taking the over, huh?
Yeah, I say that's pretty high now. Think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
46 points if you're going off of that.
You know what? Let me change my mind. No, I'll do it. I hate kind of going
It's
back. So yeah,
26-20. There you go, Gilbert.
26.
He's
Yeah.
going with actually you're saying they're gonna keep it close and they're gonna yeah, so that's that I like that. 26-20. You know what? Just because I want good content on here as a producer of the show and also on Compas on the Beat,
Okay.
I want to go. I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield. I want to write this magic. I believe in Baker Mania here, and I'm with Brand fans on this one. So I'm gonna say they win 20-17, and it's the under, and the Rams score the magic 20 points because when they score more than 20 points, they usually win. So if they score over 20 points, which I'm predicting they will, because it's going to be a slow scoring game because of the weather. So I'm taking the Rams 20-17 over the Packers. I think Ramsey shuts down Christian Watson, and we see a couple of rushing touchdowns, one by Cam Akers and one by Kyron Williams. There you go, Gilbert.
Wow.
That's my
Okay.
prediction.
So
Um,
you got the Rams winning, huh? Okay. All right.
yes, two
20.
game winning streak.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm glad you're back here. We're gonna switch it up here. We're gonna go different ways. I like that. And not thinking about it, Victor. We should probably check how many times the under has hit in Rams games because I feel like it's always hitting these under. Because last week it was 17-16. That was what 30. My math is terrible. 37. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
16. Yeah. Okay. But usually these Rams games are always under. They're low scoring. Like I feel like it's hard for the Rams to get to 20 points, and their opponents barely get 20 because the defense plays well. So now I'm kind of backtracking here, but hey, maybe this be the week where there's a kind of a over total, and I get it right here, 26-20 with my score.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. But I'm writing off this Baker Mayfield magic, and so I'm just kind of hoping that they can keep it going. Just so we have more to talk about, and I get a post game show live with Fernando. Especially if we can get 10 people to comment on this video, that would be great. Because we want to get more content out. I'm all about the content on here. So, and we have, like I said, we have a lot of stuff to promote, Gilbert. So before we go, why don't you let the people know what we got going on, what some of our promotions are, and then what do you have what kind of stores you got that are you're working on?
Yeah, like we mentioned, definitely check out our collab with Homage and that shirt that Victor has here. It's not just a SpongeBob shirt. There's a bunch of other shirts on that link right there. Check out the link in the description. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, also will be there at the link. But yeah, check out all the content. Compas on the beat. We have plenty here. And read my work at the Orange County Register. Like I mentioned, the whole Baker Mayfield uh, preparing in 2 days and making it work. I wrote about that today, so check that out. I think I'm gonna do a story on like the emergence of Michael Hoecht, the young wide receivers, just all the positives that kind of came out that was not Baker Mayfield. I feel like we're always focusing on Baker Mayfield. Maybe I'll throw. I know Greg Gaines is not a young player, but I might even mention him because he's been playing that well, Victor. So uh, stories like that, and maybe in a story on how just Bobby Wagner and Jalen Ramsey are leading this defense. The whole rivalry with Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay. So I got plenty of stories coming up here at the Orange County Register, and keep checking us out here at House of Horns.
There you go. And I just want to give you a shout out. I know somebody was complaining about your audio, but that Baker Mayfield post game interview, it's been doing well on the show here on our YouTube. So just Gilbert has a lot of access post game, and so that's honestly that's some good stuff. So make sure you're following Gilbert on Twitter, following us on YouTube because we got a lot of content for you guys. So that's it from me, Gilbert. You got anything else?
No, just make sure to subscribe to House of Horns on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and yes, you can check out that Baker Mayfield locker room video. I got plenty of locker room access for you guys, and we're trying to get to 500 subscribers. So hopefully we could do that quickly before Christmas. That'd be awesome too. But I appreciate everybody from watching, listening. Glad to have you back, Victor, here. So on that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.